briefing and obviously been looking at some of the damage on the ground. I can confirm that this was an EF3 tornado, 140 to 150 mile an hour winds that dropped down to EF2 in other parts of the county, but obviously 3. We have a ground. I just want to thank a few folks, obviously Director Stallings and the GEMA folks, the Department of Public Safety. We've had troopers here helping obviously with traffic control, but also helping the sheriff and his team be able to cover their calls. We've had troopers on the ground to help with potential looting and other things that happen in these type of events. The Department of Transportation, Department of Natural Resources, and the Georgia Forestry Commission have been helping their chainsaw strike force teams, a lot of other resources on the ground. We had a lot of roads we had to clear. And they've been doing a great job. I want to thank them for that. I want to thank the Army Corps engineers. I know their work is not over managing lake levels, obviously at West Point, and other local flooding issues that we are continuing to monitor. I want to thank just all the local and state elected officials that are here. Obviously the legislators were in the last day of the legislative session, so the local delegation could not be with us today. Former Representative Randy Nix is here representing them, and I certainly appreciate his leadership and friendship. I spoke to Congressman Ferguson earlier today, just checking on him. I know he has toured the damage and had to get back to Washington for votes tonight, but we're going to keep him and his team apprised of our efforts, and I know that he's been in communication with the local elected officials as well. I want to thank the Red Cross and a lot of other folks that are here helping us on the ground for their good humanitarian work. The Georgia Baptist Convention has folks here. Some local pastors are here. I've been texting with the chairman. We have 2 of the commissioners that are here, and obviously a lot of other local elected officials. I cannot thank the police force and the sheriff and the sheriff's office for what they have been doing to respond, and we appreciate them. I'm probably telling you things that you already know, but 25 to 30 homes completely destroyed, approximately 100 others that were damaged, and this situation is continuing to evolve because of the flooding that we're dealing with from heavy rains today. And Director Stallings will talk more about the weather that's coming in later this afternoon or this evening. We're going to continue working to clear roads, and then we'll come back to do more assessments and more cleanup, but our main priority is obviously clearing roads and getting routes cleared for the power companies. Highway 29 has been closed to non-emergency vehicles, and obviously we had a tremendous amount of rain here since Sunday, up to 12 inches. Director Stallings is going to give you an update on the West Point Lake release. Thankfully, which is a miracle when I think you view the damage that's all around us in the location we are, that we have not had a fatality. We thank the good Lord for that. We do have 5 individuals that are dealing with non-life-threatening injuries. Obviously, schools in Pike, Meriwether, Troup, and Spalding County were closed today. We'll continue to work with the school systems and monitor that. I just wanted to give you a quick update. Because of the weather, we couldn't get to Baldwin County and Milledgeville earlier this morning. We're going to be touring that site tomorrow. There's been a tremendous amount of cleanup over there already, so they're doing great over there. We did have some damage to the roof of the hospital and to the emergency operations center, and there's further damage assessments that are underway. Thankfully, no reported injuries or fatalities in that part of the state, so we're continuing to be thankful for that. In Spalding County, due to heavy rainfall, we're having issues with the temporary dam as of this morning, but again, the Army Corps engineers as well as our state folks are immediately responding to that, and Director Stallings again will update that. In Meriwether County, we did have a few homes damaged, but obviously nothing like here. From a state perspective, we took a lot of action very quickly. We did the state of emergency within hours of the tornado touching down. I know that's very helpful for the locals and local law enforcement. We have made all necessary state resources available to assist with the response and recovery, and we'll continue to have GEMA, Department of Public Safety, Georgia State Troopers, Department of Transportation, Natural Resources, game wardens who are also here with us today, and a lot of other folks on the ground, forestry and others. And we just want people to realize we're going to be here to help the locals, and we just cannot thank you enough for what you're doing. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Stallings. Again, I just want to remind people to be patient. Number one, there's a lot of damage. Thankfully, it's contained in a few small areas, so we're working very quickly. But also be weather aware tonight and just continue to be very cautious around these areas so we don't have further injuries from any kind of construction debris, trees that may be leaning, not secured or fallen yet, and other things of that nature. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Stallings. Then we're going to take some questions, and obviously we have a lot of local officials that are here with us that can help answer questions as well. Chris.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I do want to thank the Governor and First Lady for their quick response. It's their leadership that allowed us to have that state of emergency put in place to allow us to do what we do. Witnessing the devastation that occurred with these storms is a reminder of just the power and unpredictability of the weather and how important it is to have a plan in place for you and your loved ones. In the immediate aftermath of the tornado in Troup County and the severe weather across West Georgia, we began working with our local officials to ensure public safety and coordinated response to all our resources. The response to Sunday's weather event, though, was extremely complicated due to the extraordinary rainfall that followed. We received over the last 24 hours inches in the teens of rain in the West Georgia area. Through the rains, we're moving out. We continue to work with those that were impacted, getting in resources as quickly as possible. Currently, we have more than 40 state law enforcement officers in the area working, and I can't thank our partners with the Georgia Forestry Commission, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Public Safety, the Department of Natural Resources enough, and those commissioners and their leadership for answering the call as quickly as possible. Initial damage assessments from the tornadoes are underway. Our partners with the National Weather Service are here, and they've begun those initial assessments, and so those reports will be coming out when they have those completed. Also, our team will begin preliminary damage assessments, and so we'll be looking into all the resources that it took to respond to an incident like this. The Red Cross currently has 2 shelters that are open, one here in Troup County at Point University Gym on Avenue D in West Point, and the second in Baldwin County at New Beginnings on Southside Drive in Milledgeville for those that are displaced. We're asking the public to stay clear of the damaged areas and roadways in order for us to respond. As the Governor said, patience is going to be the watchword. As you've seen this devastation, I know folks want to get back to their homes and find their items that they've lost and see the destruction, but at the same time, with these power companies out here, there's a lot of live wires, there are gas mains that still need to be protected, there are a lot of things, so there are going to be a lot of law enforcement. If you do have to come back to the area, please, if you do, have an ID with you so that we can confirm that this is where you reside. We don't want just anyone roaming through the area. We care about your stuff like you do. Additionally, there are roadways and bridges that are flooded or currently near flooding conditions. So if you see a flooded roadway, please turn around. Don't try to cross it. Don't attempt to cross a roadway where there's running water. 2 feet of water can sweep away a full-size SUV. So make sure you are wise to that. And lastly, please continue to monitor your local radio stations and your trusted news sources for following updates. As the Governor mentioned, the Army Corps of Engineers has opened all 6 gates at West Point to try to control the water. We do have a rising level from the inundation from the rain into the spillways. And then, as he mentioned, the dam that was breached, and there was some confusion with the dam felling or water going over the top of a temporary dam. And so in Spalding County at the reservoir, there is a temporary dam for some remodeling that was being done on the existing dam. And so that dam did have some water go over the top. It has not failed, but there is some flooding in that area. But as we mentioned, there's a lot of roadways that are underwater. If you see swift moving water up around bridges, don't take your chances. Until it's been inspected by engineers, we're not going to be crossing them. And I'll highlight one further thing before I give it back to the Governor. is that if a bridge is closed, it can't be open until it's been inspected. Give us patience. It takes a lot of time. There are a lot more bridges than we have inspectors, and so as we get those teams out there to do those inspections, we want you to be able to get back into your homes as quickly as possible, but we want you to do it as safely as possible. With that, I'll turn it back over to the governor, and then we'll take questions from there. Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks, Chris. In closing, just on behalf of Marty and the family, we are just so thankful that there was no loss of life here. We're very lucky when you look at this devastation, and certainly want to offer our thoughts and prayers to the people of Mississippi. I communicated with Governor Reeves after the storm. I know it's a devastating storm that they're following over there, and you know, we're certainly very lucky, and thank God for that. With that, we'll open it up for questions for Richard.
Governor, have you reached out to the federal government yet to see if they're going to have a federal emergency declaration?
Well, we've definitely been in touch with our federal partners. I think the federal, you know, we're continuing to assess. I'll let Director Stallings give you an update on that. I mean, look, our first priority is we need to get people's power back on. We need to make sure people are okay. We need to make sure they have water and they have food. It's going to take us a little while to assess to figure out, you know, what kind of federal declaration, if any, we would have. Do you have anything for us?
So we have been in contact with our federal partners. The biggest thing to remember is right now we're in search and rescue and life saving. So those preliminary damage assessments, yes, that money is important, but it's secondary to safety right now. As we mentioned earlier, there's some more rain coming into the area tonight, possibly 2 to 3 inches. So we're trying to do everything we can to make sure we've got folks in shelters, we've got folks out of harm's way. So once we get those missions accomplished, then we'll start moving into the financial piece.
Governor, this is for you and this is Kim. Y'all toured a house down the hill just the other side of the church. And I know, first I'd like to get your thoughts on what you saw as you walked through this devastation. But I'd also like to get Miss Kim's thoughts as she viewed the family of one of the victims.
Well, I think when you see that house, you're thinking, Lord, how did somebody survive something like that? And then to get to talk to that person is pretty amazing, about hearing the story about the storm coming through at, you know, around 7 a.m. and they had been woken up at 4:30 a.m. with the hail, and then the storm hit so quickly and had to have people help her get out of the house. It's just a miracle that no one was killed. And you know, we remembered meeting her. Marty did. So
I met her at the Kia plant, actually in the restroom, and so I remembered her, and that was her mom's home. So it's a miracle that she came out of it, but she's doing well.
Do they have apparently have they trained together to respective cities, and also do they have communication? Because sometimes when there's Opelika accident going in Auburn, and that hurt us for a while. But it seems like everything was seamless.
Well, I would say as far as our communications go, we've had great communications between our team and the locals. But I mean, we literally were here right after the storm. I mean, I was texting with the sheriff shortly after the storm. I know Colonel Wright and the State Patrol was in communications with the Sheriff's Department. He was telling me we had people on the ground here, and so I think we've had a great, you know, state local response, and we do have some of our federal partners here today from the Weather Service and obviously the Corps engineers, and we appreciate them. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. All we do. Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for bringing. Thanks for bringing.
I'm glad to.
Sheriff.